here on Cemetery Whispering channel. Don't forget to subscribe and like, until I promise you won't fall asleep tonight.
7 of the cruelest and meanest Gryffindors in Harry Potter. Percy Weasley. The Harry Potter movies pay very little attention to Percy Weasley, although he gets quite a bit of development in the books for a character who cannot even be called a minor character, as he appears very rarely. At first, Percy is introduced as an ordinary guy who wants to make his life better and make a difference, but Percy ends up in the Ministry of Magic. He faces the bureaucratic machine and the harsh reality of having to walk on his head. Percy becomes a careerist and turns his back on his family, which is very strange because he is a Weasley, and family is all a Weasley has. Several times Percy shows himself to be a terrible guy and goes directly against his own for the sake of his career, but by the finale he realizes the whole point of what is happening, takes his family's side, and takes part in the battle for Hogwarts on the side of the teachers and students. Cormac McLaggen. The Gryffindors are overconfident, but Cormac McLaggen goes further and becomes not just confident, but extremely arrogant. He treats Hermione like a thing, doesn't take Harry seriously, and humiliates Ron. The climax of his horrible attitude towards everyone around him was the moment in the match against Puffundu, when he decided to undermine Harry's authority by taking over the team. In the end, he only strengthened Harry's position, discredited himself, and let the team down. Albus Dumbledore. In the first 2 films, Albus Dumbledore, played by Richard Harris, looked like a real good wizard taken straight from the pages of the book. Then the role was taken over by Michael Gambon, who showed Albus as a Slytherin rather than a Gryffindor. In the finale, Dumbledore's true nature was revealed. He took what he wanted from people and didn't really care about their wishes. When Severus came to Albus with a request to save the Potters, Dumbledore seized the opportunity and demanded payment for it. He then sent Harry to the Dursleys and for 12 years took no interest in his life, even though he knew that the Dursleys were horrible people. In the end, he devoted all of his time to making sure that Harry ended up sacrificing his life. Instead of telling him about the plan, he covered it up. The Weasley twins. The Weasley twins are, at first glance, for the most part only a comedic component. In the books they shared comedy with Peeves, and in the movies they had to pull the genre on their shoulders. In fact, the twins did a lot of violent things while hiding behind jokes. And some of those jokes went over the top, like the Graham Montague Slytherin situation. Graham enlisted in Dolores Umbridge's inspection squad and one day ran into Fred and George, and they threw him into the vanishing cabinet in retaliation without making sure it was in working order. The closet was naturally broken, and Graham had to use transfiguration to break out of his stuck position somewhere between Hogwarts and Gorbin and Berks. Then Montague was under Madame Pomfrey's care for several more weeks. This joke ended up cost Albus Dumbledore his life. As Graham told about the vanishing closet, Malfoy took note of the information and decided to use it to ferry the Death Eaters to Hogwarts. James Potter, Sirius Black, and Peter Pettigrew. The Marauders are a perfect example of how the distribution hat does not work at all perfectly, as James, Sirius, and Peter would have been more suited to the Slytherin faculty. From the very beginning, they made Severus Snape the target of their attacks and began to mock him regularly. James started it all. Then Sirius took over the baton, and Peter only played along as he had no opinion of his own and did everything his patrons did. Remus was the only one who stood out, not supporting his friends, but not stopping them either. The bullying continued even after Remus almost killed Severus as a wolf. James had saved him at that moment, and it could have been a turning point in their relationship. However, Potter decided to continue the bullying and pushed Severus even harder to study the dark arts.